so today I'm going to show you how I remove those pesky, irritating chromatic aberrations in your photos, or how I remove them in my photos. I can't show you how to remove them in your photos unless you want to send me your photo, and then I can do it. But I digress. All right, before we get started, check out my website at photillustrator.com. Go and like my Facebook page at Photillustrator and follow me on Instagram at Photillustrator. Definitely go to Instagram. I want to get more followers on Instagram. I love Instagram and sharing on Instagram. So do it. Don't wait one more second. All right. No need to wait till after this. Just go do it. All right. So now we're going to chromatic aberrations, those pesky color fringes that we see in our photos. So today we're going to be working a little bit on this image right here and this image right here, which I've used to create this little piece here of an upcoming portrait that I'm working on. And the reason I'm not showing you the entire portrait is really because you know, I don't let clients see these portraits until they're finished and hanging on their walls. And in case they see this this video, I don't want them to see what they shouldn't be seeing yet. Anyway, I want to show you an example, a really good example of chromatic aberrations on a portrait that I did. This is one of my favorite portraits that I've done. These women are awesome. The dogs are awesome. This little dog here just, I mean, could have been more perfect. But right here we see a great example of this color fringing along the edges here. All right. And I'll tell you, when you're editing an image, or when I'm editing an image on a computer box like this, yes, I guess you can see it, but you know, there's so much going on. I didn't really pay a lot of attention to it, but when this was printed as a big 50-inch piece, it really became more noticeable. And so I was looking for a way to knock this out, to get rid of these color fringes. Of course, I knew I could go in and cut that out, you know, actually cut it out, but I wanted a different way, and this is the way I found. So before we get started into how I remove them quickly and easily, that's the key, quickly and easily, I want to tell you what a chromatic aberration is, because I think it's better to understand what it is so you know what the heck you're getting rid of. So chromatic aberration is when we all use lenses in photography, unless you're doing pinhole photography. But chromatic aberrations is when the light passes through your lens, because light rays, or the different elements of a light, is they have different wavelengths. So red, yellow, green, red, blue, green, red, green, blue, whatever it is, they all have different wavelengths. So as they pass through your lens, they're refracted and dispersed differently. All right, so you can, as you can see here, red is dispersed different than blue, and when those hit your sensors, the sensors of your cameras, that's what creates that color fringing that we typically see, or commonly see in our images. Now, I will say that this is not the only technique to remove chromatic aberrations. Of course, there are other various techniques within Photoshop. I know Lightroom has a lens correction piece of it, or element to it, that removes chromatic aberrations, and maybe in future tutorials I'll cover that and some other ways to do it here in Photoshop. But today, this is the way I kind of have started doing, at least with limbs and trees and things like that, which seems to be a very common place to have a chromatic aberration. So here we start. After we get rid of all our white background, you can see here that we get the notorious, the pesky color fringing that we have here, the chromatic aberration. So let's get rid of this crazy chromatic aberration along the edge. So we're going to go and we're going to select a layer, the hue saturation layer. And in that layer, we have different channels, and we have the red, yellows, greens, cyans, blues, magentas. So we just need to figure out which ones these are. Okay. So I know already, because I've already done this tree, that we are dealing with a red. All right. So if we bump that red up, we can see all the red in this tree. We can get a little bit more specific with that red. We can bring in our edges here. and get rid of some of the red. We just want to make sure that we keep watching this piece right here because we know this is where the red is. So we can go here and get rid of some of that. But I want to make sure we get most of that red there. So let's go take this down just a little bit, just like that. And do that. And then we're going to take that from very, very saturated to 100% saturation to 100% desaturation. And as you can see, we still have some reds there. So we're going to mess with that. We're going to pull that. You can see it changing, fluctuating. That looks pretty good right there. Okay, so we see more up here. We see some greens, those type of things. So we're going to go in here and we're going to find our, let's go with magenta and see what we have there. So those are magentas. So we're just going to knock those all the way down. We're going to go to our greens because we know we have some green in here, as you can see there. Bumping it up to heavy saturation, 100%, is a really good way to see where your colors are being affected. And then yellows. Good grief. All right, so we see this. We got cyans here. We can take that down. We could do a full, complete saturation on this tree. I don't want to because I want to show you the different channels. But then what we can do, since the tree is completely desaturated where it wasn't before, what we can do if we want is come in here and choose our brush tool and start brushing out. Let's inverse that. All right. And then start brushing out or brushing away our edges here. So we can get rid of our chromatic aberrations, our color fringing. Chromatic aberration. I like that word. Makes me sound smart. I'm going to start using that with clients. I'm going to say, well, I had to remove the chromatic aberrations from the images in your photos and your portraits, and that took some time. So, whatever. All right, so this is one way we can start getting rid of the color fringing that we have around our images here. Because it's all about, the way you present yourself. You got to present yourself like you're an authority, like you're smart. Or is that insecurity? Might be insecurity. All right, so you can see what's going on here. I'm just removing the fringes. Now, what I would absolutely 100% recommend that I did not do for this image is I wouldn't do this on a plain black background. I would drop this image into where you're working first, because a lot of that color, that fringing that you see, may not really be an issue once you get it in here. And so don't create more work for yourself by doing it on black and getting it balls on perfect before you do it. Actually put it in there and work on it after it's in there so you can maximize your work efficiency and maybe do a lot less work. And then again here, we got the same thing going on here. If we blow it up here, we can see a bit of that color fringing here, and so we just go in simply and pick our hue saturation layer. We can choose the magenta and we can bump that saturation up so you can see how that magenta is affecting, the fringing or the edges of your picture. And then we're just going to bump that all the way down. We also have a little bit other colors here, I don't know that it's a huge deal because there are other things that we're going to do. So you can see how that affects there. So we can bring that tone down. You don't have to go all the way to desaturated. You can go down just a little bit, halfway, whatever works for you and the image that you're working on. All right. So here we see that we've done pretty good. Now, when I drop this thing into this picture here, these white areas here cause a lot of problems for me. So I had to do a couple of tricks. One trick that you can do is you can go in here and create an inner glow. That'll knock off some of that stuff. Bring your opacity down to make it more convincing. You can go in, a good one is here, is on this one. We can go in and select that layer. We're going to inverse it so we work on the outside, not the inside. Select our brush tool, and with a black brush, we're just back that up. We got to try one more thing first. We got to modify that layer. All right, so modify that selection. You're going to contract it 1 pixel. Now you can go in and you can start some of this just isn't working here. All right, so let's inverse it now and contract it. Okay, so we're going to contract this one 2 pixels since we've put it out 2 pixels. Now we're talking. So now we can go in here and inverse it and get rid of that part. A lot just happened there. Don't know if you were following it, but this isn't part of the tutorial. This is really just kind of a little bonus, but this is a good way to get rid of that white edge around there. And then you can go in and quickly just add in an inner glow to knock off a little bit more of that. Boom, you're done. All right, so that's how you remove, or how I remove, I should say, chromatic aberrations using Photoshop, that color fringing, those pesky color fringes using Photoshop. Again, what I would recommend is taking your image, putting it into the image, compositing it into the image that you're going to be using as your final picture, and then doing this technique on it there so you can maximize your workflow, reduce the amount of work that you potentially have to do in that. So go out, try this method, see if it works for you. I know it works really well on trees and limbs and buildings and things like that, but see if it works for you. I know there are other ways. Maybe I'll cover those in future tutorials, but this way works really well for me. Don't forget that once you do it, you can go through and actually mask out those fringes so you can maintain the tone and the color within the image that you're working on and not desaturate the entire thing. A lot of times you'll have to use 2, 3, 4 channels, the color channels, to make sure that you get the full fringing out of there. So anyway, go out, try this, see how it works for you. Let me know in the comments section below, and I'll see you next time on the next Photillustrator tutorials, videos, whatever the heck these things are called. I will see you next time.